Today we're going to be talking about the point in life when a boy becomes a man. How's it going, guys, and welcome to another episode of Coffee Talk. My name is Chad and this is the Hopeful Homestead. You're sitting out here right now with me inside my little tiny cabin on wheels that I've parked by my little campsite I built here on my family's 21-acre property that we're calling the Hopeful Homestead. A place that we're going to be building our forever home on here over the next 6 to 12 months and hopefully living out here pretty soon. But in these videos, I like to sit out here in the cabin with a cup of coffee in hand, talking to all the husbands and dads out there about all the difficult things in life we have to deal with. And so I thought, maybe today we'll break down a little bit of the how and why behind when a boy actually becomes a man, and shed some light on this for anybody who's maybe a younger guy and thinking about, getting married and starting a family and having kids and stuff. And, I definitely would have liked to have had someone tell me this when I was in that phase of life. As I mentioned before on this channel, I'm 37. I've got 2 kids. I've got a 9-year-old and a 4-year-old. I'm married with a beautiful wife that I love dearly. We're going to be living out here doing the whole homesteader thing because I feel like we want to live off of our land and be a little bit more disconnected from all the crap that's out there in the world. But today I wanted to share a little bit of personal experience that I know for me was the moment that I truly feel like I can recognize looking back when I became a man. And a lot of people will say, oh, it's when you had your first kiss, or oh, it's when you got in your first fist fight in high school or something, some dumb thing. Or even, more serious reasons. Some people say it's, the moment they had their first kid is when they became a man. And I can tell you right now, that's not enough reason for a lot of guys out there to actually become men and to stop being boys. I've seen too many of them that still act like boys and still cling to those boy-like habits and, practices in life that hold you back from being the man you're supposed to be for your family. I know for me, it was pretty clear it was around the time of 2020. For whatever reason, when all of that stuff happened, prior to that, I already had a kid that was 3 or 4 years old at that point. I was married. We were struggling in life, working towards goals as a family with career and, all the stuff you do when you're, starting out in life. I was at this point, I was about 31 or so, if I remember correctly. And, so I wasn't some young guy, super young guy. I was in my 30s now. And it was during 2020 when everything was happening, the collapse of everything in the world and how it became super obvious the reality of how quickly people will turn against each other when faced with adversity. How quickly the government can turn on you and essentially start testing its boundaries with you. I just remember thinking to myself, man, holy crap, there's a lot of evil going on out there. And since 2020, it's only just rapidly gotten worse with everything that's going on in the world and in our country and politics and current events and everything. I started taking, it was in those moments when I realized, shoot, my wife and I didn't really watch the news. We didn't really pay attention to what was going on in the world on a political level, or, we were just sort of just caring about, what were we going to eat that night for dinner, or what kind of takeout we were going to get, what are we focused on in our life, working with our jobs and stuff, very micro mindseted. And it was in that time of 2020 that I realized I need to be paying attention to what's going on a macro level. I need to be aware of all of the evil that's out there. I need to be aware of the spiritual warfare that is taking place all around us all the time. I need to be aware of the targets that my children have on their backs. The reality of evil seeking to destroy my children, seeking to destroy my marriage with my wife, seeking to destroy my friendships with people who are healthy in my life. I became aware of all of everything that's going on behind the scenes. And that's the moment that I believe a man finally becomes a man. That a boy stops being boy-like and starts to take things seriously and starting to realize that you are the provider and protector for your family. And you need to step up to the plate to do just that. You need to be, pouring yourself into scripture and making sure that your moral compass and that your soul is on point with what the Lord is calling you to be as the man of your family. You need to be getting into the gym and lifting weights and being strong and physically fit, caring about your health, eating the right foods. Yeah, having some pie and cake and, pizza with your kids and stuff, on occasion is perfectly fine. That's part of being a good dad and a good husband, is having fun with your family too. But in the dark corners of the day, when you're out in the middle of the day and you're stressed, on your lunch break from work or, doing whatever, and you had to go grab some fast food, and believe me, I've been guilty of this far too many times, and I'm committing myself to be better. It's in those quiet moments where you make bad choices that are, acting like a kid. You're not acting like a man. I think there's an overarching narrative that starts to happen, and I think it happens for a lot of us as we get older into our 30s, and maybe it takes longer for some of us, end up in our 40s, and you start to realize, I have to take care of everything I can control because there's so much out in the world that I can't control that's actively trying to destroy my family. I need to be aware of all of this, and I need to be pursuing truth in all of this so that I can be the filter and the gates of my family with all this crap that's out in the world, that I'm standing between all of that crap. I'm holding the shield up above my head, shielding my family from all the evil that's out there. And you can only do that if you start to take your role seriously as the man of your family. Take this stuff serious and research truth on everything. Once you start doing that, you start realizing that there's a lot going on that is just purely designed to screw things up, to mess with your mind and your family's minds and just destroy your family. Because at the center of all of that is Satan, seeking out to destroy you. And God has placed you as the man of your family in the center of that to be able to be the one that shields them from that and guides them and teaches them how to avoid it and how to make it through life. And for me, that's exactly when a boy becomes a man. But I think that's going to do it for today's video. Again, my name is Chad. This is The Hopeful Homestead. And if you feel like sticking around, I got a video right here all about why you need to be carrying a gun every day as a husband and father. So go check that out if you haven't seen that already, and I'll see you over in that video. Thanks, guys.